Okay.
Hi.
Hi. Hi, welcome to another episode of Romance Happy Hour. I'm Dylann Crush, and I'm here with Dawn Luedecke and Megan Ryder tonight.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us.
Sorry, I'm fighting with my dog, and you're going to see her in 1 second because she's.
Oh, there she
Oh,
is.
look at her. That's
she's
some puppy.
Yes,
We were just talking before we went live about puppies and dogs and how big Dawn's baby is getting. How old is she now?
she's like 7 months.
Okay.
And yeah, she's so big that I gotta get her a new kennel because she has to duck down. Get in.
You need a crate like we have for my Great Dane. We call it a lion cage. It's humongous.
Yeah, you gotta text me the picture because I'm gonna be getting one in the next month or so because she's getting
All right. Yep.
You might need it sooner than a month.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. But,
Or a barn. A barn works.
I didn't clean up, and now she's on my favorite blanket. Oh man.
I don't know if they allow barns on base. Do they? Can you build a barn out back?
Probably not.
No.
You've got a big open area behind you.
Yeah, no.
You probably don't have enough
But
space.
in our property in Montana, I sure can.
There you go.
Eventually.
2 years.
Okay.
That's what we're hoping for. 2 years. Well, maybe
Perfect.
a year. We'll see.
So, Dawn, tell us what you're up to this week. What have you been working on?
I am editing Hope Harbor yet again, or revising, I should say. And my agent had some advice. Oh my gosh! Now she's tearing up some paper. I'm so sorry. She's a mess today. He wanted me to revise Hope Harbor again, so I'm going over that. I'm hoping to get it done very soon, and so that I can get it out on submission. What about you, Dylann?
I am working on a new book that I put up on pre-order, even though I haven't written it yet.
I did that with Hard to Resist, but I got it done. You can do it.
Yep. And I have a freebie. So I've got the Sweet Tea and Second Chances is free on Amazon through the end of this month. And Lemon Hearts and Stolen Hearts is available now in ebook. I got the rights back from my box set, and I put the third book, the third full-length book in the Lovebird Cafe series up. It is Hot Fudge and a Heartthrob. So that one is available to pre-order. And I'm diving in deep and quickly into that one. So
is the cover up on the pre-order?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Is the cover up on the pre-order?
It is.
Yeah. I saw it the other day before you people did.
Yeah, well, I haven't shared it widely yet because I'm still a little freaked out that I put it up on pre-order. But it's going to be fine. So it's going to be great. So how about you, Megan? We're excited that you're joining us tonight, and you're going to be reading from one of your cowboy books. Is that right?
Yes, I'm reading from the second book in the Redemption Ranch series. And I'm working hard on the third book that will be coming out in March. So lots going on here. Yes.
And I don't know if you're comfortable sharing your location, but we were talking before we started. Where are you right now? Where are you coming to us from?
I'm coming to you from Connecticut, where we are fully into fall, although it was just 92 degrees. So I'm not really sure where we are in the weather here. It might still be summer. We might be in the fall. We might be in the winter. I'm really not sure where we are yet. But that's Connecticut. Wait 5 minutes if you don't like the weather, and it will change.
Yeah. It seems like it's that way a lot of places nowadays. Yeah, we had, I'm in Minnesota, and we had, I think it was 60s today, and then next week we're supposed to have another day in the 80s.
Yep.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's been kind of crazy. And we do have some nice leaf color change going on right now, but I've always wanted to go up and see, like in the Northeast, and see.
Well, this is not the year because we're already seeing the leaves change. This is not the year to come here because the leaves are already changing and it's a little early. So try for next year. I think it's going to be better next year. It's very sad.
The New England fall. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
It normally is absolutely beautiful here. We love that's the best part about New England, the fall.
It really is. Sorry. It really is. I'm a mess today. I'm sorry. I came right from work to here and I still got my dinner over there, so.
Oh, and your puppy's tearing up some paper. You're just having so much fun over there.
She's looking for my shoes right now because she went into the other room. So
Only if you have a new pair of shoes.
they are my new pair of shoes.
Uh-oh, you're in big trouble now.
I know. I texted my son, so hopefully he'll come put her away because she's very mischievous.
She's not going to touch your son's shoes. I can tell you that right now. They're going to be yours.
Yeah. Hi.
Oh, and she's probably trying to eat dinner. She's probably trying to go eat your dinner.
She is. She's trying to get on my lap right now. She wants to read the story for me tonight. She wants to be my
She'll
book.
help you edit.
Yeah.
Oh, we've had husbands come on and read stories, so why not let the puppy?
Yeah. I know. See? Steve can, or the honey can read in place of Steve. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. She's a mess.
Oh, I think I have Megan read first tonight, and then Dawn is actually going to read from her latest release.
Yes.
So are you ready to share your book with us, Megan?
Sure. I will share a scene from Coming Home to the Cowboy.
Okay, you got to
I
show
can tell
us
you.
the cover. Do you have the cover in front of you? I guess I didn't warn you that people like to see the cover.
I only have a little pit because I don't have the paperback yet.
That's right.
This is second book, so it's sorry. I'm really like spatially challenged here, but this is.
It's hard because when you put it up there, it shows on the screen backwards from what you're doing, holding it up there. So it's tricky.
It gets kind of weird, but this is the second book in Coming Home to the Cowboy. So Redemption Ranch is about three foster brothers who kind of ended up on the ranch in their teen years as kind of their last hope. It was their last place they were placed, with a man who had lost his wife, and he sent his daughter as a promise to his wife, actually. He sent his daughter off to boarding school to give her a better life. And he kind of felt alone, and he took in three foster boys to raise and to give them a better life. And when he passed away, he brought his daughter back as part of the will and with the boys, and he left the ranch to all four of them. And it kind of went from there. The ranch, being as many ranches go, is a tough road to hoe. And the first book, which is A Cowboy's Salvation, which I happen to have next to me, was about the oldest boy, West, and Tara, the daughter, and how they kind of came to their own resolution. But Chase, in this book, is a bull rider, and he had been in foster care his entire life and never kind of found, even with Redemption Ranch, never found his way to a home. He never believed he had a home there. And so he went on the road bull riding to bring the money home to the ranch. And he also was running away from the woman he always loved, which was his best friend's wife.
Ooh.
Yeah, unfortunately, his best friend followed him on the road and died bull riding. So yeah, I don't write very light and fun books. I would love to, but I tend to write very emotional, very heartfelt books. They're sexy. They're very sexy, but they are also very emotional books. And it's 4 years later, and she's coming back to town, and he's back after a big injury, and they are reconnecting at Redemption Ranch and figuring out what's going to happen, and can they actually have their happily ever after between the two of them. So yes, Deanna, you've actually read them. You've connected on a couple of my sites, and so she knows that they'll bring you to some tears, but they do end happily most of the time. They always do. I like happily ever afters, but I put them through the ringer.
Well, then they earn and deserve their happy ever after.
Yes, we have to earn their happily ever after. Hard. They earn it hard. They earn it very hard. But this scene, I loved this scene because she has a 6-year-old boy, and Chase believes very hard that there's something wrong with him because he was abandoned as a baby. And he says, everyone's adopted as babies in foster care. And he goes, but I never was. So there's something wrong with me. No one ever wanted me, ever. So he believes that there's something wrong with him. So he's faced with his best friend's son and wife. And he goes, how can I be a father figure to this child? And how can I have nothing to offer this kid. And this particular scene, I love this scene because it kind of shows him trying to be that father figure to this boy, and that point of him trying to figure his way out, along with, can I have this woman also and be a husband? So that's why I picked the scene.
Oh, sounds good. All right. Well, Dawn and I are going to hop out of here, and we will leave you to it. And if anyone has any questions for Megan while she's reading, go ahead and pop them in the comments, and we'll catch up with them afterwards.
Okay.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, here we go. So after a moment's indecision, she headed down the hall and knocked. When she didn't receive a reply, she opened the door cautiously to find no one in the room. His bed was haphazardly made, if you could call it that, and she wondered when the sheets had been changed. She'd leave that for the weekend. In the corner, by the hamper, the clothes had piled up, mainly t-shirts and socks, with a couple pairs of jeans on the pile. She sighed. Men were the same, no matter what age. She set her pile on the bed so she could sort through to find the dark clothes, and a brown paper bag slid to the floor. The sack was from the used bookstore in town, and several books had slid out from the floor, a couple under the bed. She began picking them up. Science fiction, fantasy. Chase still liked to read. She remembered he used to hide his books whenever they'd catch him reading. But Adam never cared that Chase read. Haley had tried to give him other genres like mystery or suspense, but he'd get really quiet and say he already knew the world was a dark place. He didn't want to read about it. He liked the escape of other places, other worlds. It looks like he hadn't changed much. A corner of a book peeped out from under the bed. She knelt down to pick it up and froze, her heart stuttering in her chest. She sat back on her heels as she sorted through the titles. Parenting, do's and don'ts. Basic parenting. Positive parenting. And even more, a few early reader books. The bedroom door opened and Chase stepped in and stared down at her, his eyes widening. Haley, what are you doing in here? She scrambled to her feet and held out the books. Did you buy these? He scowled and turned a furious shade of red, but made no move to take them. I was at the store picking up some books for the road. I thought AJ might like them. I don't even know if he likes to read, but I know you have bedtime story time. She blinked through suddenly watery eyes. He loves books, and even more, he loves to have someone read to him. He can read a little, so these might be okay, but he'd like it even more if you'd share with him. Chase swallowed. I don't think that's a good idea. She put the books on the bed and took a few steps forward, resting her hands on his chest, feeling the warmth of his body seeping through his t-shirt, thawing her even further from the hibernation she'd been living in for the past 4 years. She placed one hand on his cheek and turned him to face her. I was wrong. Any man who bought these books for a boy he barely knows has already proven to be a good man and a good role model. Why did you do it? He tried to look away, but she kept the pressure on his face, forcing their gazes to remain locked. Finally, he gave in. I don't want to make another mistake. She laughed. You will. You'll make a lot of mistakes. But that's okay. So will I. You should have seen me tonight at my parents'. AJ was overtired and was off the wall. And instead of leaving, I stayed and got the lecture about my parenting skills. So I yelled at my son, who then burst into tears because I was mad. Which, of course, led to another lecture on discipline. Believe me, you'll never get it right. You'll always second-guess yourself. The best you can do is try to do what you can for him. I trust you with him. A muscle ticked in his jaw, tension radiating from every muscle in his body. He stared beyond her at the bed, but she knew he wasn't really seeing it. I worry that I'll screw up. She grinned. Join the club. All parents screw up. We do our best and hope. He refocused on her, a teasing glint entering his eyes. You never answered my question, though. Remember the rules? Stay out of my room. By my calculations, you've broken those rules twice now. Thank goodness he was finally relaxing a bit, and her own muscles eased, and she cocked her head up at him. I had only the best of intentions. If I recall, I was helping you with your injuries, and tonight I thought I'd do some laundry. But first I had to clean up this mess. What are you, a 12-year-old boy? He glared around the room. What's wrong with my room? I'm barely here. She burst out laughing. Your clothes never make it into the hamper. Your bed's not made, and the towels are everywhere. You need a keeper. You're too used to being in hotels. He blushed as he took in the parts of the room she identified, but he wasn't going down without a fight. Why make a bed you're just getting back into? Although you might be right about the clothes. She patted him on the chest like a little boy, although that was the last thing she felt when she touched him. I'll take care of it this time, but going forward, sort your own damn clothes, and I'll be happy to do your laundry with mine. But bring your towels and sheets to the laundry room. Deal?" His gaze narrowed and he stared down at her. "That still doesn't deal with the problem of you breaking the rules. What would you do if AJ broke a rule?" She bit her lower lip as she considered his question. She needed to be very careful here. "I suppose I would explain to him what he did was wrong and why, and then ask him not to do it again." Chase snorted, the laugh he couldn't hold back. "Maybe you need some of these books. Tell the truth." His voice had turned coaxing, the tone almost stroking against her skin, lighting her up, making her very aware that she was alone in his bedroom at night, and no one was around. No one would know or care. Fine. I'd still talk to him, but he'd probably be grounded. Chase stepped around her and sat on the bed, patting the space next to him. "Grounding, as in taking away something he likes? That sounds just like punishing you as much as it does to him." "Yeah, when I take away television, he's a grump and drives me crazy. Trust me, we both suffer." He rubbed his jaw. The faint bristles from the day's growth had proved he hadn't shaved before going out that night. She longed to run her fingers across his scruff. If he hadn't planned on scoring at the Rock, he would have shaved. It was a small thing, but something she'd always noticed about him. "It's not much for pain or denial myself, but I do think you owe me a forfeit." She shook herself away from his fingers and focused on his words. "A forfeit? I was helping you. That doesn't seem fair." He quirked a grin, his eyes flashing humor. "I think it's perfect, since I didn't ask you to do either one. Besides, I think you'll like this one." She eyed him suspiciously, especially intrigued in spite of himself. "What did you have in mind?" He pretended to think and leaned back on the bed so his t-shirt rolled up a little bit, exposing the abdominal muscles she had dreamed about the night before, and still wanted to trace, with her fingers, her tongue, anything else she could think of. He folded his arm behind his head with barely a wince for the muscles that still had to be sore, especially his right shoulder. But she wasn't as concerned about that, although she'd use that as an excuse if necessary to get her hands on him again. He studied the ceiling as the seconds ticked by from the clock on the bedside table. "I think you should kiss me." She jumped at his words in the quiet space, the same thought she had been thinking, but afraid to voice aloud. "Why should I kiss you? Been there, done that. It was all right." She feigned nonchalance, although her mouth had gone dry and her hormones were racing through her body, trying to get her to jump on him and ride him like a bucking bronc. Oh my God, where had that thought come from? That wasn't the Haley she'd always been. Maybe there was something to be said for rebounding after forced abstinence. Chase smirked, clearly not buying her sentiment. Liar. He propped himself up on one elbow. "If it really wasn't that great, well, I guess we're going to need 2 kisses. I have to save my reputation, you know." She sucked in a deep breath, feeling like the room was closing in on her, the summer night breeze drifting in from the open window, doing nothing for her overheated skin. She suddenly realized how ridiculously overmatched she was with Chase. She couldn't compete with him, didn't have the experience or the raw sex appeal to be on the same level as a man who had flirted his way through all of Granite Junction and then the PBR circuit, while she was on a single mom who had already borne a child. As if sensing her change in mood, he sat up and took her hand, engulfing it in his. "Haley, it's just a kiss. Not a lifetime commitment, or a night of unbridled passion, although that could be arranged if you want it." His voice was teasing, but there was something in his eyes, something a bit more vulnerable, that made her wonder what he'd say if she asked for a night in his bed. He'd come home alone. She knew that was a choice on his part, because Chase would have plenty of offers at the Rock. The question remained, why was he settling for a kiss from her? Instead of responding, she leaned forward and brushed her lips lightly across his quickly, before she could change her mind. "There you go. 1 kiss." He frowned and shook his head. "Haley, I expected so much more from you. Is that the best you can do?" She pushed him back on the bed and straddled his lap, finally having him where she wanted, at her mercy. Was there anything sexier than a man spread out for her delight? She slid her hands under his t-shirt to trace the muscles of his abdomen, feeling the tension in his body, but he only arched a brow and encouraged her to continue. "Off," she ordered, and he lifted up slightly to help her take off the shirt. Now he was stretched out on the hunter green bedspread for her to enjoy. She sat back, and she wiggled to get more comfortable not to hurt him. He groaned and closed his eyes. "Haley, you're killing me." His jaw was clenched and his fists gripped the bedspread, but his eyes stayed still for her perusal. "This is my time, although it was supposed to be my punishment." "Haley, you have to do something. For the love of all that's holy, something." He groaned and lifted his hips. She leaned forward, letting her hand slide along his stomach toward his shoulder, careful not to snag on the healing incision or press on the bruises that already marred his body. She brushed a series of tiny kisses along his jawline, rubbing her cheek against the bristle of his beard. She loved that stubble, the rasp against her skin. Felt like a real man was touching her, caressing her. He turned his head and looked at her, his dark eyes a deep espresso. He buried a hand in her hair and reversed their positions until he was braced above her. His heart arousal notched between her thighs and his body caging her carefully onto the bed. Inches separated them. She could smell the beer and steak on his breath and the overwhelming scent of Chase all around her. But he waited for her decision, not rushing her. She licked her suddenly dry lips and he was unleashed. He took her lips in a deep, claiming kiss, his tongue plunging deep into her mouth, stroking her, learning her until it gentled and softened, teasing her into responding. She arched her back to get closer, wrapping her arms around him to pull him close until no space was between them. She jerked when he felt his hand slide along her torso, a light stroke that broke her concentration. She pulled away from the kiss and stared at him, her breath coming fast and heavy. Suddenly, where she was, what she was doing, she wasn't sure it was a good idea. Chase seemed to come to the same realization and rolled to the side. "Are we square?" she asked. "Are you still going to do my laundry?"
All right.
I love that last line.
Just like a guy. Come on, you going to do my laundry so I don't have to? I think I would ask that question, actually, to be honest with you. I hate doing laundry. It really, actually, just fold it for me. I hate folding laundry or ironing.
That's why I have kids.
Yeah, I think we're already getting complaints in the comments that you left us at that part. So,
Well, it was the end of the scene. Sorry.
My finger was hovering on the little button because I was like, oh gosh, I did remind her this was PG-13, right?
Yes.
I was thinking that too. I'm like,
Nope, we were ending right there. Nope. We pulled back at the laundry part. She still has to do laundry, you know? She's got a 6-year-old. He's going to be up early. She's got to go do the laundry.
All right. So we do have some questions.
Okay.
What is your motivation to write? And then she says Dawn and Dylan can answer too. So Megan, go ahead. You answer first.
Oh, geez. You know, ever since I was a little kid and I first discovered books, and I'm not kidding you, my mother used to read to me before I even knew how to read myself. So I remember every morning we'd read before we start the day. The first book I remember reading with my mom was Charlotte's Web. And I just remember being mesmerized by books and being transported by books and saying, I want to do that someday. And I'd read books and retell them like, you didn't tell that right. Or I wish, they should have done this with that story, or I wish we did this, or take a secondary character and they should have done this with it. But I always put a romance in there. I always said there has to be a better romance in there. And it always bothered me, like TV shows, everything, there always had to be a romance. And so I wrote my first story probably when I first started to be able to write, which was probably 7 years old, 8 years old, and it always featured animals and a romance. Not that there was animals and people, just saying there's no weird stuff going on. But there was always horses in there, and there was always a romance between the humans, and there was always something there. So I just love to tell stories.
I wonder, I think a lot of us writers wrote a story when we were young. I hear that a lot, and I did too. I don't ever say I wrote a story when I was little, but I mean I did. And it's like typical writer stuff. Did you, Dylan? Did you write a book when you were younger?
I used to tell stories all the time. And when I was younger, I mean, I always thought that I was going to write books for kids, and that's just not kind of what came out of me when I started to get serious about it. So, but yeah, I always had stories in my head, and I always had people talking to me in my head, and that weird way that we do. So yeah, though the one story that I did a creative writing class in high school, and the story that I wrote for that, it was kind of a romance, but they both died.
Oh, tragedy.
So
Like
his
a
name,
Romeo and Juliet thing here.
Yeah.
in modern times. Yeah, both the hero and heroine died. So I'm not sure. I've lightened up since then, I think.
I hope so.
I hope so. You wouldn't be a romance writer if you
No,
did.
no, that was a tragedy, a romantic tragedy. I'm creating a new genre for myself.
Yes.
My first book was a warrior princess who was on a quest. Yeah, it never got finished because it
Was
got
her name Mulan?
Huh?
I said, was her name Mulan?
So she was like, it was like a Xena type warrior princess, like
Nice.
kind of, yeah. But it never got finished because it got, stuck in the bottom of my locker and with the trash and just for years. So what about you, Dylan? What motivates you to write?
Oh, what motivates me? I mean, I think similar to you, Megan. I guess, I used to just kind of write for me, and then when I started sharing it with other people, I just realized that, I enjoyed giving people an escape. And it just, if I wrote something and it made somebody laugh, or, they said, oh my gosh, I really enjoyed it. I read it so fast, I just sat down and read it all in one sitting. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I like giving people something to escape. And I think, I've kind of shared my story of how I started writing. We have a challenging, our youngest is very challenging. And when I stopped working and was staying home with the kids, and every day was a really, really, really long day with him, especially. And so I kind of turned to writing as kind of my own escape. And so just, now knowing that I can kind of provide that for other people, I think that's what gets me going or keeps me going. So how about you, Dawn? What motivates you?
Well, the first thing that motivated me to start writing, is my husband. I was writing, I was doing college and writing really great essays. I was just really good at writing essays. And I was really proud of it because then I could just write it and get an A, and then it was good. And my husband, I smuggled in my 200th book because I was a big reader. And my husband said, why don't you write that and make us money instead of spending all of our money on your books? And I'm like, good idea. So I hid my first story from everybody but my sister Dylann, and that will get to Karen's next question here soon. And Dylann helped me kind of plot it out. And now what motivates me is that it's become therapy. So I get really, really tension filled and filled with anxiety and stress and depression if I don't, because and then once I sit down and finally start to get some massive words out, has to be writing, not editing. Editing doesn't work.
No.
But writing the words actually is just like therapy, and just and that's what motivates me. So on that, Karen also wants to know if we have any siblings. And I will say, Karen, I have 4 sisters and 1 brother. And my mother and at least 1 or 2 sisters is here. I think I saw at least 1, maybe 2.
Your mom on here.
My mom is here.
Mm-hmm.
And Dylann and Dylann and Dusty, we all have DJ initials because my parents, when they got married, they were DJT. So we all had DJT initials. Now we have DJ whatever initials. I'm DJ L. But yeah, so Dusty, if you see a D name pop up there in the comments, it's probably one of my sisters, which is why Dylann, if we do end up going to San Francisco RWA, she gets to join us because she's got a D name and she's blonde. So
yep.
She can come be one of our sisters.
Nice.
So.
I'm going to join the D club.
Dr. Sister. And then, okay, so we had another question.
Oh, I don't get to talk about my siblings?
Oh, yeah. Your siblings. Yes, sorry.
I have one of each, and I'm the oldest because I'm the bossy one. So it's I have one brother and one sister. So how about you, Megan?
I have an older brother. He's 10 years older, so we basically, I guess they say now because if you're that far apart, you're basically like only children.
Yep.
But we're actually pretty close. I joke that he would take me on dates with him. His dates had to like his. I had to give the stamp of approval. He used to take me with him, so because he was that much older than I was,
Yep.
So he'd take care. He almost would babysit me sometimes. So yeah, my brother and I are pretty close, and he's really he never read a romance, and he has read mine.
Yeah.
So I give him a lot of credit. Give kudos to my brother for doing that. So kudos, big bro.
Yeah, I have a brother, and he's 10 years younger than me, and we are very close. Growing up, like he would only go to sleep in my bed with me, and like we were buds. And
that distance, you don't have the rivalry when you're too close.
Yeah, right.
Although I blame him for my love of Star Trek. I couldn't watch Sesame Street because he owned the TV.
Mm-hmm.
So
sorry, I'm trying to find the other question.
I was going to say, I thought I saw one more.
Do you prefer ebooks or paperbacks when you read?
I tend to prefer ebook.
I like paperback.
I like, for my eyes, I like to see the bigger font now. I like to hold paperbacks. I miss paperbacks, but it's just easier with how fast I read to be able to just carry an iPad with me now, and I can make the font bigger if I need to.
All right, so there's one more I found. If you won $1 million, what's the first thing you would buy? Can you guess? That was Karen who asked that one. What's the first thing you would buy if you won $1 million?
Okay, Dawn, you answer that one first, because I answered the ebook one.
I would pay off all my bills, and then I would buy my husband a new dually, and then we would buy our.
And there would go your. Well, no, I was thinking $100,000.
$1,000?
No, I was thinking $100,000. There would go all your money if you bought a dually, but they're not $1 million.
Only half of it if you bought a dually.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'd buy my husband a truck.
Nice.
Because.
What a good wife.
Yeah. What about you?
Pay off all my bills definitely first.
Right.
Very first thing. Definitely get that monkey off the back, and then I think I would move away from Connecticut, believe it or not, and find a nice little place, small place somewhere, either North Carolina or maybe somewhere out west.
So let me ask you, actually, I'll ask you this after Dylann answers because I do want to.
Yes.
What would you buy, Dylann? You got everything.
No, it's not that I have everything. I just, I'm getting to the point where it's like, I don't even want my husband to buy me flowers because I don't want to have to take care of one more thing. So I wouldn't want anything else I have to take care of. So yeah.
Hire someone to take care of it all for you.
Maybe. No,
yeah.
I would definitely pay off the bills. And then I think, I don't know, like I said, I'm the oldest. I'm the responsible one. I think I would pay for college for my kids. Because we're starting to have those conversations already.
I just want to point out, I know I'm digressing here from this question, but I had said, oh, Dylan's got a cabin. She's got everything. She's also got beavers at her cabin.
Yes, we don't have to talk about the beavers tonight. I know your husband gets really irritated when I have you talking about beavers, so I'll probably just leave the beavers behind.
I was so excited to see your picture.
We have nuisance beavers at my cabin. They have been declared nuisance beavers, which I didn't know that was a thing. Yes, we have just naughty, dirty nuisance beavers at my lake.
Not good.
And then dams, and then it blocks the water from, flowing in and out. And, it's this whole, it's science on, it's like an ecosystem.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you can't do anything about it because they have an ecosystem there.
Right. Well, I guess the Lake Association did hire some beaver trappers.
Ooh.
These are professional, get ready, Dawn, professional beaver snatchers that come in and remove the beavers from the lake.
My husband's already commenting on that.
I'm sure he is.
Good job.
Let the
That
record
has to go in a book. I'm sorry, Dylan, that has to go in a book.
let the record show that Dawn brought up the beavers tonight. Okay, Steve?
Yeah.
It was not me.
Oh my gosh. Everybody ignore my husband's comments.
I think we will have to censor the comments tonight.
Oh my God.
Okay,
God.
there was another question though.
Oh, there was. Have you ever written a book under a pseudonym?
No, that was not the question. I was looking for one way early. It was, is there a genre that you
Oh.
would like to write?
Oh, right. Yeah.
Something like that. Now I can't find it.
No, yeah.
Oh, here. It was from Karen. What is a genre that you would like to try sometime but not quite ready to tackle it? Because Megan, you write more than just, don't you write other genres besides cowboy?
I'm only published in contemporary romance right
Okay.
now.
But
I
are they
do
all
want to write
cowboys?
paranormal. I want to write paranormal.
Okay.
I love and I have been dabbling in suspense, but nothing published yet. But I do want to write paranormal. I love
And if
paranormal urban fantasy.
did write paranormal, what would your choice of, would it be shifters, vampires, shifters?
I'm not a vampire fan. Blood does not work for me.
Would it be beaver shifters by chance?
Shifters.
Wolf.
I
But
have
maybe I'll
seen
put beaver shifters.
wild boar shifters. I have seen guinea pig shifters. I have
There's
seen
some weird shifters out there,
there's
man.
some- yeah, I
There's
mean,
some really weird shifters out there.
I think maybe Dawn, we should write. We talked about doing a co-project. I think we should write beaver shifters.
Beaver
There's
shifters.
some-
Okay.
There's some. Yeah, I
Beaver
think you guys should do beaver
romance.
shifters.
Yeah. Maybe
You
we should
should.
do a romance happy hour, like short story, free everywhere. With beaver
Yeah,
shifters.
that would be fun.
Nuisance beaver shifters.
Yes. Being chased out of their ecosystem by the big bad humans. Yeah, I think you should
Open
totally do
conflict.
that.
How
That
about
is
you,
natural.
Dawn? What genre would you like to write that you haven't?
Regency.
Ooh,
Oh,
really?
I'm too scared of Regency, but I love reading it. That's
I
probably
do.
one of my favorite genres to read, but I am way too intimidated to write it. So that's
Fabulous.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I really would like to write like middle grade or something like that. I can make use of all the butt jokes that fly in our house all the time and stuff like that. But that's intimidating. I think it's more intimidating to me to write for kids than it would be to write for adults because I feel like they're a lot less forgiving. So,
Yeah.
or something dark and twisty.
Yes.
But that reminds me back to somebody's comment about a pseudonym. So I've kind of written a pseudonym before. It was me and my husband did a joint project, but that was just for our kids for Christmas, and we published it, self-published it.
Really?
And it's starring my son and my daughter, and we did it for them because they couldn't ever get along. So it was a story. It's the same story, but from different perspectives.
Interesting. Where can you find this?
On Amazon, it's SD Luedecke. So let's see.
Nice.
It's called The Trouble with Brothers. That's my daughter's book, and The Trouble with Sisters is my son's book. But
I think maybe
it's an Alaskan adventure that they go on when they miss the bus to school. So.
I think you should read from that next time, or maybe tonight. You're reading tonight. Would you like to read from that?
I gotta read Hard to Resist, and because my Coast Guard friends here that are on here might understand what's going on a little bit here. But
well, and we're already 40 minutes in, so
Yeah.
And I'll be quick. Yeah, I'll be quick.
Well, you don't have to be quick. I'm just saying I think we ought to get to it.
Yeah, I think you should listen to it. Hear it.
We don't want you to rush through it, Dawn. Take your time.
Okay. All right. So
I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you and pull me and Megan out of here. Do we need to set the scene at all, or are we just going to dive right in?
So, for those of you who know this series, it's my Coast Guard drill instructor. They're called company commanders in the Coast Guard. This is Sarah. She is the third CC from book 1, Hard to Love, and this is her story. She is currently the lead company commander for a company, and her assistant and her clashed because he thought he was supposed to be getting the lead this time, and she got it. So they've been clashing the whole time, and they're doing a volunteer project to kind of pad their resume together, and they've decided to do a Pets for Vets. And so here they are. This is the first time they're kind of getting along, and they've gone to a shelter together to kind of check it out and start with this project. So they're at a shelter. Kind of reminds me of you. Sarah stepped to the next kennel and stared straight into the eyes of the ugliest dog she'd ever seen. Not that Aiden was ugly. He was anything but. Ever since the almost kiss, she couldn't get him out of her mind. It says it's a bull-headed terrier. Real nice, Aiden rolled his eyes. Look at him, she pointed to the animal. He's all muscle and no brain. His head is thick and it has an egg shape to it. Aiden meandered to a nearby kennel where a scroungy small dog yipped and jumped up in excitement, his mouth tilted back in a mischievous grin. Look at this ugly thing here. It looks just like you, small and loud with an annoying bark. The description says it's called a bitchin' freak. It does not. And what does that even mean? Sarah frowned and elbowed her way past Aiden to read the description. She scanned the words and then slapped Aiden's arm. Okay, and I'm going to butcher this dog breed name. I'm sorry here, but it's a bitchin' freeze. I know I butchered it.
Freeze.
How do you say it? Bitch on freeze. Aiden squinted at the posting.
Sean.
So good. I don't know how I read that wrong. I know you're a meathead, no brain, no muscle. So what you're saying is you're hot. That's what you heard when I said you have the brain. No, it's what I heard when I said like my muscle. Talk to an eyebrow up and express your major muscles with the brain material. Damn man and their ability to turn everything around. You heard wrong. I never spoke to people like that. The look he gave her shoulder was never one that she wanted was going to sacrifice her for their child. She had to stay strong against the increasing pull agency to battle her. Why did she let him charm her this morning with promises of jobs, hot coffee, and donuts? All of which she delivered. She gripped for now and then to keep her confidence. Because she was a sucker, that's why. A fool. I wasn't listening to your words. He told the foot square, and the small dog twisted in a circle, only to wag her tattered tail and use the happiness. He stopped the game and returned that stare to her. The one that sucked all the air out of the dang dog's head. I was listening to your tone. What tone am I giving you now? She planted her foot down on her hip and leaned forward as she spoke. Yes.
I think when I popped in and out, it made your volume go wonky.
Did it?
You got to back up.
Okay, let's see how I am now.
Okay. Back up to the bitchin' freeze.
All the way to the bitchin' freeze?
You went garbly. I'm so sorry. I'll just sit here and mute myself so it doesn't screw you up.
Oh my gosh, where's the bitchin' freeze at? Okay. All right. The description says it's called a bitchin' freak. It does not. And what does that even mean? Sarah frowned and elbowed her way past Aiden to read the description. She scanned the words and then slapped his arm. It's a beach on freeze. I cannot say that, but Aiden squinted at the posting. So it does. Don't know how I read that wrong. I know, you're a meathead. No brains, all muscle. So what you're saying is you think I'm hot. That's what you heard when I said you have no brains? No, it's what I heard when you said you liked my muscles. He cocked an eyebrow up in an expression that made her want to flick him right in the eyeball. Damn men and their ability to turn everything around. You heard wrong, Petty Officer Quinn. I'd never stroke your ego like that. The look he gave her smoldered with memories of the almost kiss in their compartment, one that she'd wanted but couldn't sacrifice her career to have. She had to stay strong against the increasing pull Aiden seemed to have on her. Why did she let him charm her this morning with promises of dogs, hot coffee, and donuts, all of which he delivered? She gripped her now empty paper coffee cup. Because she was a sucker, that's why. Weak, a fool. I wasn't listening to your words. He poked the plexiglass and the small dog twisted in a circle, only to wag her tattered tail and pant in happiness. He stopped the game and returned that stare to her, the one that sucked all the air out of the dank, dog-scented room. I was listening to your tone. What tone am I giving you now? She planted her free hand on her hip and leaned forward as she spoke. You're an egocentric jerk. He gave a cocky smile. You want to take me out to Mexican after this? I accept. She took a half step back. I never said that. But enchiladas? No. Refried beans? Never. Tacos. Sarah sighed and walked down the room to toss her cup in a nearby trash can. Fine. So tacos does it for you, huh? Everyone likes tacos. Sarah returned to where they stood, and she chuckled to herself as Aiden turned and continued his game with the white, scraggly dog. She was a sucker for a good taco, but more than that, she wanted this day to continue. And if she were being honest with herself, she didn't mind Aiden's company. At least he liked Mexican food as much as she did. Sarah held back a snort the moment Aiden began to coo as though the Yipper dog was a baby. Despite their past battles, she enjoyed watching the way the large, scary male company commander got such a simple delight out of a little animal. She chuckled to herself and turned back to the large dog and lifted her hand to run her fingers across the words and the description. As she read it, she jumped back when the terrier lunged at her hand, snapping as if trying to bite right through the barrier. Her heart pounded as adrenaline coursed through her veins. The dog took a step back and growled. Sweet but cautious, my ass, she mumbled. No wonder you're in here. This is Roddy, Jane, the attendant she'd spoken to on the phone, said as she bustled into the room. The dog lunged at Jane, and all she did in return was click her tongue in a tisk-tisk sound. He gets temperamental sometimes. Only sometimes? Roddy has a... Jane scrunched her face and cast her eyes to the ceiling. Sometimes he is the best dog in the shelter, and other times he's not. Sounds a bit too unpredictable for my comfort. If we don't find a home for him soon, he'll have to be rehomed to a different shelter. Why's that? Jane shook her head. He's been here the longest, and we haven't been able to get him adopted. Frankly, we're running out of space, and we just got word that one of the new arrivals is pregnant. So we'll need the extra kennels. I'd appreciate it if you guys could find him a home, or at the very least, a foster home. What will happen if we can't? We'll have to transfer him to another shelter and see if they have any luck. Problem is, Jane paused, quirking her lips up as if she contemplated her next words. Yes, Sarah urged her to continue. Well, the only shelter with any room is a kill shelter. See why we need to find him a home? We'll see what we can do. Aiden turned and continued to play with the small dog as Sarah stopped next to Jane. This guy, too. He'd be transferred right along with Roddy. A dog the size of a small horse stood and stretched, his body taking up at least a third of the kennel floor space. She wasn't sure which breed of large dog he was, but his long fur added at least a few inches to his girth. This is damage, Jane said. He needs a home where the owner is something like a dog whisperer. Why's that? What's his story? Sarah asked. Well, for starters, he's a mix between a Bernese Mountain Dog and a St. Bernard, so he spreads a lot of dirt. He's also a little slow and not too bright, but I think he's just starved for attention. The dog drew closer to the plexiglass and stopped, his head even with her chest. Her heart beat hard when he leveled his eyes on her, their depths void of the happiness she normally saw in a dog, poor creature. And he's old, probably won't make it much longer in this world. Why do they call him Damage? Aiden asked, turning his back on the little dog. The little thing yipped in an attempt to get his attention back. I suppose because of his massive size, Jane answered. One half of the dog's mouth lifted. Sarah couldn't tell if it was a sleepy attempt at a growl or something more innocent. He looks lonely. Yeah, well, he'll always be alone. He doesn't play well with others. This one over here is our newest addition. Jane drew Sarah away from the giant, frightening dog. She's got a very sweet temperament and loves to cuddle. We don't expect to have to keep her long. Where did she come from? Sarah glanced down at the cutest bugle. Sorry, I've had one. Beagle she'd ever seen. Then again, she'd always been a sucker for beagles, which was one reason her dad had bought Haas in the first place. A family who had moved into the place that didn't accept dogs. They were heartbroken at having to give her up. Holy crap! Aiden stepped up next to her. She looks just like the dog in your dad's picture. Not having met Haas, there was no way for Aiden to tell, but she could. Sarah squatted, drawing closer to the dog. This dog was a little thinner than Haas had been, and the ears were a little droopier, but the markings were similar. Mostly. It had a mixture of black, light brown, and white, with the black spreading out to resemble a saddle cinched around the waist with a tail that wagged with the same enthusiasm that Haas had once upon a time. The top of this dog's tail had a longer white tip, where Haas's had only had about an inch of white at the bottom. The dog was almost perfect, except she's a girl. Sarah stood up and pointed down at her. Aiden dropped to the dog's level. Huh, so she is. For a second there, I thought you might be able to bring her home and pass her off as your dad's dog. She curled her lips back. That's morbid. Aiden stood. So is searching for a dog every day that you know is dead. You'd have a better chance of keeping your dad from searching the streets if he had a dog in the house to keep him company. What he said made sense, somewhat. Her dad needed something or someone in his life to be a constant companion to him, to draw his attention, to keep him busy. And the fact was, she and Carol couldn't keep going the way they were. Eventually, she'd have to find a solution to her problems, but not today. Today, she had to figure out just how she would go about establishing a Pets for Vets program for the shelter. Can we foster these guys? Aiden said. Yeah, Jane nodded a little too sharply. All you got to do is fill out the paperwork. Do you have a lease with a pet addendum? No, but I rent from a buddy. Aiden whipped out his phone and texted his landlord. A few seconds later, the confirmation text dinged on his phone, and he showed it to Jane. The woman nodded. Good enough for me. Bring me a copy of your pet addendum once you have it. I'll take this guy home with me today if I can. Aiden pointed at the ugly yipper dog. Well, we'll have to go over your application to make sure you're the right fit for a foster home, and that can take a few days. That's fine. Perfect. I'll go get the paperwork. Jane hurried out with a little bit more pep in her step than before. Sarah crossed her arms across her chest. She didn't think the ugly dog had much interest, judging by the way Jane hurried out of the room. You're really going to foster a dog? Not just any dog, a bitchin' dog. He nodded proudly. The coolest dog in the shelter. And I'm going to stop there just because we're getting late. But it's not kissing scene or anything. But I liked my dog scene. So
I love it.
Oh, that was fun.
That was fun. I love it.
Being on screen with them while they're reading.
What's that?
I'm not used to being on the screen with someone while they're reading, so
that was funny.
Awkward.
It was very funny. I loved it. I want to see him with that dog.
Yeah, well, he names her Boats because that's her nickname, so he names the dog after the girl. But I know it's kind of weird, but so I forgot to give you this backstory too. Was that her dad? She lives with her dad, and her dad has dementia. And every day when he starts to get in his what do they call it? Like it's like sunrise or sunset, or anyways, when he kind of gets in his episodes, he's looking for his lost dog, Haas, who had gotten out of the house and got hit by a car. Oh. So he's always searching for Haas, his dog. And that's one thing that Sarah, and previously, okay, I'll let you read it.
That's so sad. Now you just took that dog scene and made it really sad.
I know, I'm sorry. Well, it's funny now because now, like, you got the bitchin' dog is going to come home, and the new beagle is going to come home.
And will Dad ever notice if it's a boy versus a girl thing?
No, he does. He realizes that, but it helps him to, like, kind of
move on,
yeah, and be like, wait, yeah. He keeps mistaking her for Haas, but he, like, gets it after a while. Oh, yeah. So.
Okay. That's the important thing.
That is important, yeah.
Excellent.
Well, we did have one question while you were reading. Karen would like to know, what is your go-to
I
snack?
can do that. It should just be protein, but I've been eating a lot of carbs lately, and I'm feeling it. I need to go running.
In any particular form, or do you just sit down and just lap protein powder? I mean, give us-
I just like put the powder in my mouth. No, protein bars or peanuts or just protein. Yeah, but I love carbs, and it's no good.
Oh, yes.
No good for me. I need to go running.
Running is evil.
I just bought a bag of those mallow cream pumpkins or whatever, the frosted pumpkins. I like those. I don't like the candy corn that has the brown on it,
Yeah.
but I do like the pumpkins, so I can't get the autumn mix. I have to just get the pumpkins, but
Yeah.
if it's
I
not
don't
peanut butter M&Ms, it's usually this time of year I like to get my pumpkins.
I do not like the candy corn with the brown on them. It's got to be regular candy corn. What is that brown? No, take the brown off.
It's supposed to be like a fake chocolate. I don't think it's
Yeah.
real chocolate, but
If it's not real chocolate, I don't want it.
no, I don't get that.
For me, I like Twizzlers. I like Mike and Ike's if I'm going to go for candy, but I'm trying to avoid the candy because I'm trying to avoid the sugar. So I'm trying very hard to be good about that. So if I do have a snack, I love cheese. Oh, I love cheese. But I'm trying to avoid that too. So, sour cream and onion potato chips.
Okay.
I'm a salt and vinegar potato chip girl. But you know what? To be honest, my go-to snack is wine. How about that?
There you go.
That's my
That
go-to
works.
snack.
I didn't get home in time to watch mine.
I discovered Bailey's this summer. I've been avoiding it. I discovered Bailey's, and I had some vanilla cinnamon Bailey's the other night as a celebration for release day. That is a great fall drink.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, well, you're gonna have to give us the recipe because we put recipes up every time. So
no, it's you just buy the Bailey's vanilla cinnamon.
That is Dawn's kind of recipe, and you pour it over ice.
And you're done. It's my kind of recipe too, Dawn. You just pour it over ice and you're done.
You can add a little extra to it, some water it down. No water.
No. Straight, man. No, just straight.
Coffee.
No, straight. Nope. I don't do coffee. I do tea. So just straight Bailey's.
Okay, straight Bailey's.
Straight Bailey's.
Yeah, I'm looking at everybody's other snacks. Oh, yeah, I do. I'm with Linda on that. I do like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, ice cream.
Well, and hard to forget, they go like I don't know. I must be on a donut kick with this book series because I mentioned donuts just now.
Mm-hmm.
And hard to forget, they went to a donut shop and tried that bacon maple.
That is good. We talked about that on our show one time.
Yep.
Yeah.
We got sidetracked on a donut conversation. And yeah, maple bacon those are good donuts.
I've never had one. I'm gonna have to have one.
You've got to go to Duck Donuts and get maple bacon donut.
Yep.
Duck donut?
Mm-hmm. They have them out there.
Or duck?
Duck, like quack, quack.
DUCK donuts.
We don't have that here.
We don't have that here either.
It's from like Duck, North Carolina.
Oh.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they don't even have like Dunkin' down there. It's kind of weird down there in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm. Minnesota doesn't believe in donuts so much. When we first moved here, I couldn't find a donut shop to save my life. Except for now, but yeah, they call everything's a Danish.
Yep.
But it has a hole in it. It's a donut.
Yeah, they don't understand that. I'll have to give you guys my ginger snap recipe. It's a family recipe, and I keep referencing it and coming home to the cowboy because Chase gives that to the horses. He gives ginger snaps to the horses as their treat for when he trains them. And we have an old family recipe that my mom actually inherited from her great aunt. And my mom is the only one who seems to be able to make it in the family. So I'll have to give it to you guys to put on your site. They're a great cookie. And my nieces to this day swear that my mother leaves out part of the recipe recipe because they have not been able to replicate it. And my mom's like, we actually took a picture of it. And they're like, we still can't make it. We don't know what you're doing, Grandma. There's something wrong.
That reminds me of an Everybody Loves Raymond episode. Did you see that one?
With Marie with the sauce or something? Yes. The trick with ginger snaps is to leave the dough overnight in the fridge to chill.
Okay.
And then the next day you do it. And you have to use the right butter or margarine. We use margarine, but you have to use the right stuff. Those are the two tricks.
Made some, what is that cookie with the cinnamon and the sugar on top?
Is that snickerdoodles?
Snickerdoodles. So I made some snickerdoodles, and I was like, I'm going to be fancy with it because I have pumpkin spice flavor. So I added some pumpkin spice flavor in there because it was just for my kids. And then I'm like, crap, I don't have any cinnamon. But my mother-in-law had given me like these little like flavor things, and there was a Thai cinnamon or something like that. I like smelled it. I'm like, ooh, I don't know. So I like smelled it like hot tamales. And I'm like, hell yeah, man. So I like did it in that, and it's so good. My kids are like, these are the best cookies you've ever made.
Wow.
Yeah. My husband missed them. Sorry, babe. You missed the good snickerdoodle pie cookies. Pie cinnamon.
You're going to have to make them again. You're going to have to make them again.
Yeah. Pumpkin spice, pie, cinnamon, snickerdoodle cookies.
That's a pretty big mishmash. Or some sort of a monster mash there.
You'll have to write that recipe down so it can live on forever.
Yeah. You're going to have to with the right name for those spices.
Yeah, I gotta find that spice. I mean, I still have some, but I definitely gotta write it down.
Yeah.
It tastes just like hot tamales. Like it doesn't taste like the other cinnamon. It tastes like hot tamale cinnamon. I don't know. I feel like they taste different. I don't know if I'm weird, but
that sounds very odd.
I think we're kind of we're over time already, but I was gonna go ahead and have Megan remind us. You've got a giveaway up on the Facebook page. You're giving away an e-copy of read from tonight, right?
Yes, of Coming Home from the Cowboy, and I lost my cover. I don't know. I must have been having too much fun. I lost my cover somewhere here, so find it. It's on the Facebook page. Sorry, I lost the cover.
Yep, it's on the page, and Dawn is giving away a set of her hardcore ebooks.
Yeah, the three of the books: Hard to Love, Hard to Forget, and Hard to Resist. All three.
Awesome.
So if you already have it, I'll do a paperback. But if not, it's.
Or maybe you could make them some of those special cookies.
Ooh.
Or I can do a cup, a tumbler. I don't know. I got new wine glasses. My kids broke my wine glass.
The fancy one that you showed us last time? Oh no!
It's a wine glass, and it's broken and in the trash. So I was like, I got to make a new one.
I'm sorry.
It's been
tragedy.
I've been experimenting with etching, glass etching. So I'll be popping some of those up soon, and I think maybe, it's fun.
Fabulous.
Oh, I'm sad.
I know, me too.
Now you get to have something fun, something new and fun.
Yeah.
Time for a change.
I have this one. Dylan gave me this one, so we're partners in wine.
Partners in wine.
Mine outside. I was in a hurry, so I just have the monster wine glass tonight.
Nice. Very nice. Well, thank you, ladies, for having me tonight, and thank you for all the wonderful comments.
Thank you for coming.
I had a great time.
For joining us, and we will be back with you next time. Our next date is October 10th, so look for us then, and we will make sure that you enter the giveaway. We'll leave that open for a couple days, and we will talk to you soon, Megan. Good luck with your release. And
Bye. I can't wait to read it.
Yeah, I can't wait to read about boats. The dog and the boat. I can't wait.
Joining us.
Thank you. Bye, everybody. Bye.